The internet has already decided what this is. He got famous, he got healthy, he filed, he's dating. She's posting Nickelback and trying to get her spark back. Bunnie XO went on her own podcast to explain her divorce and spent most of it protecting the man who filed it. And somewhere in there, almost by accident, she describes exactly how a marriage gets built on one person's back. I have, of course, been overthinking this, so let's talk about it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Andriana, and here I like to overthink pop culture so that we can make something from the mess. Today in the chair, we have Tornado again. This is Tornado the Stallion. If you enjoy thoughtful spiraling with cat supervision and palate cleansing, make sure you subscribe to stick around. Another note, if you hear screaming, our pool is right outside my office window, and I cannot ask my kids to be quiet because it is hotter than like a gas station taquito out there with a vengeance. And so they're going to be screaming. I don't know. Another note of housekeeping, because this is a real woman and a real marriage, and I am not interested in being cruel about either one. This is not going to be a Bunnie was dumb for staying video. That's not my vibe. Although, full disclosure, I have been a huge fan of his sad boy catalog for years. And I have had a lot of side-eyeing going on lately as Jelly Roll seems to grow more and more political and Christian. But we're not going there today. So, today I want to just answer one question. Why does Bunnie XO's divorce feel so familiar to so many women when her life looks absolutely nothing like theirs? Because be honest, on paper, this is the most extreme version of this story that you could possibly build. Celebrity, sex work, fame, IVF, a movie about their love story, the internet inventing a Nickelback affair in real time. Like, it's wild. And underneath it all is something that a lot of women will recognize, and that's a woman who became the emotional infrastructure of a man's life until she got too hollowed out to keep holding it up. So again, I don't want to rank their divorce or hand out blame in some weird freakish way. I am just here because half of us heard her say I was the glue, and we felt that somewhere you didn't expect to. And I want to talk about why. So let's start with the part that everyone skips because it's not as fun as the Nickelback thing. But the origin story. So the way Bunnie tells it, they did not start with money. They started with nothing.
We were two kids who literally had nothing. We were still in the streets.
Two kids and a dream. I am a hopeless romantic. So yes, that sounds so freaking romantic, but hang on for a second. She's pretty clear that she was the one generating income while his career was still 20 people in a room small.
Like, I was turning tricks to pay our bills and to get lawyers and to travel and to, go on tour and stuff like that. Like, I literally went on tour with him and was seeing clients just to fund our life at the time.
So he's on a stage building the thing that becomes the brand, the Grammys, the movie, and she's funding the stage, the bills, the lawyers, the travel, the tour that he's standing on. This isn't, I believed in him from the sidelines. She names it pretty plainly. The money came as it came in real time off of her labor to keep them both alive while his dream got its legs. And then it worked. That's the part that makes it land so hard. The shows doubled, the crowds doubled, And within 3 years, the demand for him exploded. So when people say she helped build him, I mean, I wanna be precise because she was precise. She took the risk, a huge risk, and she invested the reward into him. A woman using her body to make money is not a scandal to me, and I'm not going to treat it like it's the tragic part of the story. But at the same time, sex work positive doesn't mean risk blind. Like, we can hold both at once, right? Like, there's nothing inherently shameful about the work, and the kind that she's describing, seeing clients in private, often alone, carries real physical risks. Risks that in her telling, she absorbed personally so that someone else's career could grow. The cultural script wants this to be a fairy tale. The ride or die girl bets on her man, they win big, and love wins. But listen to how she actually frames it. It's not, I believed in him from the sidelines. It's closer to my body, my safety, my labor were a part of what kept the dream breathing while it was small. Now, of course, I want to be careful with that, like, she gets to define her own story. I'm not going to hand a grown woman a tragedy that, like, she didn't ask for, and maybe she didn't experience any of this as sacrifice. That's hers to say, not mine. But from the outside, that is a lot for one person to carry. The riskiest part of building their empire landed on her body. And 10 years later, a large part of the empire has his name on it. I'm just sitting with that. I'm just saying you can sit with that too if you want. That's all I'm saying. So now let's move on to the part of the story that starts to be about her body again, but this time in a completely different way because the body that funded the early years is also the same body that later needs to make a baby. And this is the part of the podcast where you can hear her trying not to fall apart.
I had to do IVF. Let me tell you something, dude. That is one of the loneliest, darkest journeys you will be on. It wrecked me emotionally, spiritually, physically. I became a shell of the person I was.
She also says very quietly a number that most people don't say out loud.
Jay and I have lost 4 embryos.
4 embryos, 3 transfers, 2 twins they were going to have, and then 2 more. And while that is happening inside of her body, she's also describing the contrast. His career is peaking and hers is taking off too. She's building a multi-million dollar brand at the same time. But emotionally, the two of them are moving in opposite directions.
I love my husband, but he literally is go, 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 go. I mean, it is, he will not sit down. I always say he's a politician. He loves to
Mhm.
shake hands and kiss babies, and that's his personality.
So she collapsed inwards and he seems to have expanded outwards. So, content warning if miscarriage, infertility, or pregnancy loss are triggering to you, then you might want to skip ahead a couple minutes. When Bunnie says that she became a shell of a person, I don't have to imagine what she meant. I know what it does to a body. I have lost pregnancies. And that's why I said it's so impressive to me that she is comfortable even just saying the number because that's often something people don't share. So I stopped counting at 3, um, but I'm confident I've had at least 4 losses. So, I'm going to tell you something that doesn't make it into, like, the soft, focused infographics that you see about miscarriage. It is not just sad, it is physical, it is physically brutal. My second loss, The pain was so bad that I passed out on the way to the ER and then again in the ER. As someone who has also labored and given birth to a baby, the miscarriages feel like labor, except there's no baby coming. It's just pain, just blood, just awful. It's just like this awful animalistic feeling that your body is doing something super final. And never once did it ask your fucking permission. And then it's over, and the world acts like you should be fine now because the bleeding stopped. Here's the part that matters for this story. When it happened to me the first time, my husband did not fall apart next to me. He ran. Not out the door completely, but he ran into work, into purpose. We were in a, let's just say, high control religious world at the time, and grief gave him somewhere extremely respectable to put himself, serve more, be more useful, be strong, be needed by everyone else except for the woman bleeding in the next room. And the men around us handed him that exit. I'm not taking any responsibility off of my husband, he knows that. But at the same time, it was easy for him because the exit was handed, the door was propped open for him. So when I stopped reaching for him, it was like the whole system gave him permission to stop reaching back. That was the only season of my marriage where divorce has ever actually entered the room as, like, a discussion. So, when I watch Bunnie describe collapsing inward while he stayed go, 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 I'm not watching it from across like a velvet rope. I'm watching a more extreme, more famous version of a fork in the road that I've unfortunately, like, personally had to stand at as well. My marriage is still standing, and I don't think that that's because I did marriage correctly and she didn't. I genuinely have no fucking clue how we made it out. I wanna say we're lucky, but again, I'm deconstructing, so what is luck? I don't even know. I don't even know how we made it out, okay? But for us, something shifted, and eventually my husband turned back around and he came towards me. By our second loss, we were out of that cult and environment, and he sobbed beside me. He also got like irrationally upset. He got irrationally upset in the way grieving people sometimes do, and he decided that the doctor that gave us the news was evil. Like, he didn't tell her this to her face, but oh my god. She wasn't evil, I don't think. But he was in it. He was in the room with me instead of escaping into something more holy or busy. And through all of our losses since, he has not turned back to the pattern of running. And the grief has not gotten smaller, but luckily the container feels so much safer. I teach feminism for a living. So I understand very well that not every woman gets a turnaround. Not every man does it. So I'm not standing here as some kind of like weird proof that staying is a reward for good behavior. I'm just saying that this fork in the road is real, and which way it goes is not actually up to the woman doing all of the reaching. Okay, now can we go into the line that made half of the internet go quiet? Because right after all of that, after the losses and the shell and the going inward, she names the dynamic herself.
Always loved my husband a little bit more than he loved me. I was very like, like always protecting him and always making sure he was okay and like always chasing him. And like I literally was the glue that held us together.
And then the turn.
I stopped chasing him. And when I say I stopped chasing him, like, I mean, I stopped everything.
So let's stop on the word glue for a second because people tend to hear it or even say it as like a sweet little compliment. And again, a lot of those quotes, like I've said those things. So again, I'm not coming from a high horse perspective here. I've said I think my I love my husband a little more than he like I've said that before. So glue, being the glue. It sounds cute, I guess, until you really stop and think about what glue actually does. And glue lives under like constant pressure. It fills in gaps and it holds two pieces together that on their own, if left to their own devices, might not stay together at all. Glue is useful because no one notices it. Nobody thinks about the glue until the thing that it was holding together comes apart in their hands. So this goes well beyond Bunny and Jelly. Women often say this. So just hear me out. You being the glue is not romantic. It just opens up the question, what was falling apart without you? And to answer that, I feel like I have to translate something, but I wanna do it gently because, again, this goes beyond Bunny and Jelly, and Bunny is using this language to survive something real, and I am not here to take that shit from her. But when a woman tells you that she was the chaser, let me walk you through what chasing actually is. As a fellow chaser. Let me just tell you about the day today because it does not look like romance at all. It looks like a job. And just know we're queer over here. So I'm using pronouns and genders and things, but like what even is, you know? These dynamics show up in any relationship, unfortunately, under patriarchy. Also, my kids have now moved inside. So now they're sun drunk. Um So screaming may continue. So being a chaser, you know when they're off before they have to say anything. You know when the silence is like a normal silence or when the silence has a little bit of bite to it. You know when I'm fine means fine, and you also know when I'm fine means the next 3 hours are gonna be weird. You check in often. You soften your voice. You ask the questions the nice way. You ask the casual way. And then you start with the, hey, I'm not trying to like start a fight. I just want to understand you way. You keep track of what's stressing them out. You remember the thing with their friend. You remember the work problem that they had last week. You remember what hurt his feelings 2 weeks ago, even though he never fully said it hurt his feelings. You make the room easier for them to exist in. So, hear me out. Checking in is love. Like paying attention to your partner is love, that's caring. Caring about someone's inner world, that is all love. All the things I mentioned above are things I do regularly for my partner even now, and none of them are wrong. The problem comes when you are the only one doing it, my friend. That is not romance. It's like a shitty ass part-time job with like a really bad boss. And so that's the distinction I'm pointing out is care care it turns into labor really quickly when it's one-sided and when it's not mutual. So when she says that she stopped chasing, she's not telling you that she stopped loving him. She's telling you that she stopped being the only person who was keeping the relationship alive, and the marriage could not survive her putting that job down. How many women know some version of this deep in your actual bones? So I don't know. I don't want to let up off of this runner chaser thing. So I want to stay on it for one more minute because I think the language is also kind of doing something sneaky. And when I say that, I don't mean that Bunny is being sneaky. I mean just the concept is being sold to us, and I think it's a little sneaky. So it sounds cosmic, right? Twin flames, soulmates, one runs, one chases. The universe wrote it into the stars before either of them was ever born. Like, again, beyond Bunny. That's like the fairy tale. That's the story, right? And so, I don't wanna be rude about it because, honestly, if naming yourself the chaser is what gets you through losing 4 embryos, both of your parents, in a handful of years, you name yourself whatever the hell you wanna name yourself. I truly mean that, but I also can't unhear it. So, stepping away from her, um, runner and chaser, sit with the actual choreography of that for a moment because one person's whole assigned role is to leave, and the other person's whole assigned role is to go get them forever. And that's what we're calling destiny. So remember, I am a deconstructed former Christian. So currently, like, I am allergic to anything woo woo sounding. That's just a me thing. Nevertheless, I still think that runner is just a prettier word for emotionally avoidant. And I think that chaser is just a prettier word for overfunctioning. Chaser is just a prettier word for overfunctioning. The runner gets to be the mysterious, busy, hard to pin down one, the one being pursued when all chasers want is to be pursued, right? Like, if you don't turn your ass around, I tagged you so many times, you the chaser gets handed the maintenance contract of the entire freaking relationship and a pen to sign it with. It's just a marriage can survive a season where one person is the weak one. People go through it. Somebody's drowning and the other one carries them for a while. That's not a red flag. That's just literally being married. It's literally the gig you signed up for. But what marriage genuinely cannot survive is one person being permanently assigned the repair crew. Now, why does this keep happening along these exact, like, gendered lines? Because men don't feel less, I have to kill that thought on sight. And Jelly Roll, by every account, including hers, feels things very deeply. I mean, listen to his sad boy music. He feels. My husband feels things so deeply that he once tried to indict an OBGYN for the crime of telling us the truth, you know? The issue isn't that men don't feel grief. The issue is that culture hands men an approved escape hatch from it and calls that hatch purpose. So remember, from the time boys are young, they're taught no crying, suck it up, be a man, rub some dirt in that shit and keep going. So of course you've got a lot of men who are not especially emotionally literate. And so when things like grief happen, then of course it's easy to run into things like purpose, things like work and touring and ambition and ministry, networking, being needed by literally everyone. Quote, he's a politician. He loves to shake hands and kiss babies. Every one of those is socially applauded place to put pain when you're not taught how to just sit alone with it. And so he's out being celebrated for staying busy and staying strong. And in these relationship dynamics, he gets applauded for staying busy and for staying strong, while she is the one literally left holding the body and the grief and the hormones, the marriage, the image, the reaching. In these scenarios, he gets purpose, she gets the glue. But that's just my opinion. Down in the comments below, you tell me, what does "I stop chasing" mean to you? I read all of them. Sometimes, unfortunately, I read all of them. So let's get back to the question that I started with, which was, why does this feel familiar when her life is so extreme? And it's because the details are extreme, but the pattern is not. The pattern is common. I would wager that almost none of you funded a future Grammy winner with sex work and then later went through IVF in the middle of getting famous. But maybe some of you. That part is uniquely hers, but nevertheless, a lot of us still know the shape underneath it. You know what it is to pour your money, your body, your attention, your grief, your ambition, your last 20 minutes of the day into a man, a family, a dream, and then realize that the whole arrangement only stays standing as long as you keep pouring into it. You know what it is to be praised for being the strong one, the glue, the ride or die. I used to love being called a ride or die. Right up until the day you can't anymore. And here's the quiet, brutal thing that the podcast is just built on top of that she never quite says. She stopped chasing for 5 minutes, and the marriage revealed that it had been standing on her back the entire time. That's not a celebrity problem. That's just a regular old run-of-the-mill weekday problem for a lot of women. I am not telling you that Bunnie sees her own story the way that I've laid it out. For all I know, she'd watch this and disagree with every single chapter, and fair. But what I am telling you confidently is that a whole lot of women heard her describe the feeling of being glue. They heard her describe the chasing, the going inward, the funding, the holding it all together, and we didn't hear celebrity. We recognized that job. So if you heard Bunnie say, "I was the glue," and you felt it somewhere tender, I don't think that that's because you're broken or because you picked wrong or because you didn't try hard enough. A lot of us were handed the same job and we were told that it was love. First off, we were convinced that it was our nature, that we were the lucky ones for being so strong. Girl, you are allowed to put the job down, and putting it down does not mean you've stopped loving anyone. Thank you for overthinking the cost of being the glue with me. Now, why don't you go pour some of that care back into yourself for once and fan that sparkle of yours? Or just go have a nap. Whatever you choose, you deserve it.